Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. We're looking at the Foundations commanders, and today it's going to be Evereth, Viceroy of Plunder. So Evereth is a Rakdos commander due to the hybrid mana in its ability, and it's a 3 mana 2/2 vampire soldier with flying that says sacrifice another creature or artifact, put a +1 counter on Evereth. If the sacrifice permanent was a treasure, it gains lifelink, activate only as a sorcery, and when Evereth dies, you may pay 1 and a hybrid Rakdos mana. When you do, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So what's important about Evereth is that while there have been commanders before that are able to sacrifice things and are basically sack outlets in the command zone, cards like Bartolome, for example, Evereth is the first one that is both a sack outlet and also its own kill condition due to this mutual fling effect. So to that end, we're going to be playing a number of sacrifice-based combos and other cards that benefit from sacrificing in an effort to either win with one of those combos or simply have an infinite sack outlet to make Evereth huge, then sack Evereth to some other sacrifice effect and infinitely fling all of our opponents. Although it is important to note that Evereth is not capable of sacrificing herself, so even if you do that, you do need another sack outlet in order to get rid of Evereth. So to that end, here are the combos, and I won't bore you with going over every single one of them, but a lot of them involve either having a creature that can come back over and over and over, and then the mana to offset how many times it can come back, or some such other thing. So in particular, we have Putrid Goblin and Wing Rattle Scarecrow as creatures with Persist, and then we have ways of negating their -1 counters. So those are cards like Thran Vigil, First Day of Class, and Gev Scaled Scorch. These are all cards where if you have a sack outlet and then one of these 2 persist creatures and then one of these 3 cards that negate the -1 counter, you can infinitely sacrifice the persist creature over and over and over. Similarly, we have creatures that come back from the graveyard, so we have Reassembling Skeleton and Tenacious Dead. We also have Gravecrawler, which requires that we have a zombie in play. So with any of those cards, if we have some combination of Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, Pawn of Ulamog, Sifter of Skulls, and Pitiless Plunderer, if we have some combination of those cards that allows us to either generate equal or more mana than it costs to get any of these cards back, we can sack them over and over, redeploy them, and go infinite that way. We also have certain sack outlets that can themselves be the kill condition. So Altar of Dementia, for example. If this is your sack outlet, you can just mill out all of your opponents. We have Blood Artist for when we have a sack outlet, but no way to actually kill our opponents. So this is a way that we can just trigger this over and over and over. Carrion Feeder as another sack outlet, and because it's a zombie, it meets the condition for Gravecrawler to come back. And then finally, the Ozolith is here just as a way to where if we put a bunch of counters on Evereth, but then she winds up dying, we can at least store those counters on the Ozolith and get them back later. So with all that said, any of these combos can either work on their own or can work in combination with our commander. In particular, if we've got one of these combos but no sack outlet, we can then just cast our commander as the sack outlet. We also have a whole bunch of card draw, especially card draw that is based on creatures dying. So Grimhorror Specs, Midnight Reaper, and to a lesser extent Morbid Opportunist as ways of drawing cards based on our sacking. And we can potentially just draw a bunch of cards off of these regardless of whether we actually have an infinite combo or not. We've got some fast mana because, again, we want to get our commander and combo going as quickly as possible. Pretty straightforward on the lands, not too much to see here, although we are including Phyrexian Tower as another way to sack creatures. Protection to make sure that our commander doesn't get countered or killed. Bunch of ramp. Goblin Engineer being here mainly as a way to just go dump Phyrexian Altar or Altar of Dementia into our graveyard and then get it back. Some removal spells, because again, we do need to interact with our opponent to some extent. A little bit of stacks. It's obviously awkward to run Blood Moon effects in a dual color deck, but we do have a lot of fetch lands and 2 swamps, so we can potentially get around this by simply making sure to fetch our swamps out ahead of time. We also have Grave Pact. Since we're going to be sacking creatures a lot anyway, we may as well run this as a way to effectively remove opponents' creatures, and sometimes we can sacrifice things so many times that this is essentially Plague Wind. Then a bunch of tutors, because of course we also want this, in particular things like Entomb and Unmarked Grave, because we can put certain combo pieces into the graveyard like Gravecrawler and Reassembling Skeleton and go off that way. And with all that said, that is going to be Evereth, Viceroy of Plunder for EDH.